Yeah. Right.
Sir, so our host Vedant is here. We will be introducing you to our audience.
One second. I'm not able. I able to see my slide
Yes, sir, it's visible.
on a full screen. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Quickly. Oh. Okay. Go ahead.
Sir, so our host Vedant is here. We will be introducing you to our audience.
One second. I'm not able. I able to see my slide
Yes, sir, it's visible.
on a full screen. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Quickly. Okay. Go ahead.
Sir, so our host Vedant is here. We will be introducing you to our audience.
One second. I'm not able to hear anything. I'm not able to hear the on full screen. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. 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 Hello. I'm not able to hear anything.
There are multiple channels echoing into the system, so please mute your microphone and then we can, start. Everybody has to mute microphone. Whoever wants to speak, unmute it and speak. There is a back and forth echo is, disturbing the channel. Thank you.
Warm greetings to everyone. This is your host Vedant Dasgupta, and today I take the opportunity for welcoming you all to the highly acclaimed Hourglass Conclave 2021 organized by Technovanza VJTI. Ever since its inception in the year 1887, VJTI has proudly continued the growth of its legacy, filled with brilliance and educational prowess. Furthermore, it has thrived in nurturing the brightest minds of the society. Over the years, Technovanza has effectively progressed towards its goal of taking technology to the society by meritoriously passing on the flame of expertise to light more torches. Through the guest lecture series, Technovanza has catalyzed the spread of creative ideas and thoughtful lessons from remarkable dignitaries to the common masses. Pioneers of diverse fields, including Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. John C. Mather, Mr. Ratan Tata, Dr. Henry Schaefer, among many others, have glorified Technovanza through their enriching knowledge and illuminating persona. Behold, because today we are elated to add a truly inspirational name to a glorious list of luminaries. Our guest today is the entrepreneurial genius who set up India's first web portal in the year 1995 and has since inspired countless young minds in achieving the impossible. Today, we are pleased to welcome the extraordinary Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan. Mr. Balakrishnan is the founder, chairman, CEO, and principal shareholder of the renowned online portal Rediff.com. Hailing from the small town of Kannur on the Malabar coast of Kerala, he has graduated from IIM Calcutta in 1971 with 2 awards. His abundant knowledge has resulted in him being positioned as the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, for 2 5-year terms. Mr. Balakrishnan has also chaired the Ministry of Information Technology Working Group on Internet Governance and Proliferation. Moreover, he was a member of the committee that updated the Indian IT Act 2008 and has personally penned Section 79 on intermediaries. In addition to this, he was also a part of the Education Ministry's Committee on Online Education in 2010 and of the National Education Policy Subcommittee on Higher Education and Employment in 2019. His remarkable experience and innovative cognizance has been inked by him in his book, The Wave Rider, a chronicle of the information age, published by Macmillan Publishers. He is a man of determination and strong desire, as can be said from his intriguing habit of coding for hours, even till this day. Sir, this small introduction wouldn't do enough justice to your numerous accomplishments. The impact that you created on the next generation of professionals is the very result of your perseverance and simplicity. We are truly honored to have you as our guest. We will have a Q&A session after the lecture, so please leave your questions in the live chat below. So, without any further ado, let's be a part of a conversation of our shared future under the guidance of Clearly the Best.
Okay, shall I start? My voice is clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Voice is clear? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at the age that you guys, your kids are today, I also, when I was like this primitive man that you see on the screen, sitting and figuring out how to make a new invention, etc. And the important thing is my father and grandfather were doctors. And for them, at that time, particularly in the 1970s, the professional route was a route to being a good man. And businessmen were seen to be, the word entrepreneur, the word startup had not been invented. So when I called my dad and said, I'm going to start Sweden, and he said, God, won't your education be wasted? I'm sure some of you guys have the same experience with your own parents. But let me see, there are some interesting aspects which you may see. First of all, it's very important that the current innovation is happening in the computers and internet arena, but many such waves have happened in the past, as I've described in my book. It started out with the textiles and steam revolution in the 1800s, the factory system, affordable, the plus point was affordable clothing, the minus point was child labor. Now, each of these technological breakthroughs and waves come with pluses and minuses. When the steel, rail, and ships were invented, it provided world trade, affordable transport, urbanization, but it also stimulated slave trading and colonialism. When electricity, petrochem, and the chemical revolution happened, it meant affordable clothes, fertilizers, and pharma. But the negative was the Bombay textile mills collapsed, as you know, and I was alive and well in 70s. When I came to Bombay in 1971, 72, there were over 100 cotton textile mills in the Parel area. Today, not one of them exists anymore. Similarly, the collapse of the Bengal jute industry was synthetic substitutes arrived for jute, and that whole Darjeeling area collapsed. And that was the true origin of Naxalism, was a complete destruction of the jute industry. Today, we are going through an era where computers and internet are penetrating first media and then financial services. And soon they're going to be penetrating healthcare, banking, insurance, medical jobs, legal system, etc., etc. So you must see the revolution being created by the technology of computers and internet as one more among many such things that we have seen in the past. So a good reading of economic history will give you good insights of all the pluses and minuses that these revolutions bring. Okay. Typically in the current internet revolution, three forces are at work. One is digitization, where newspapers, magazines, videotapes, celluloid, paper currency are all converted to intangible material, digital aspects. This intermediation, you've already noticed the collapse of cinema halls, cable operators, bookshops, and soon the court system. Any intermediary between the main consumer and the producer is getting wiped out. And disaggregation is when media conglomerates have collapsed. Similarly, the banking system is underway, in which instead of having one big bank, you'll have payment banks and payment websites and apps, etc., deposit-taking apps, trading apps, and so on and so forth. So these three forces of digitization, disintermediation, and disaggregation are things which you have to watch out for. They're also the source where innovation opportunities arise. Do not forget that. If you have the time, I think try and read this book. I'm sure, unless it's already being taught to you, Crossing the Chasm, because today when you think of creating some innovation at the left extreme, you try it on an early market of adopters, early people with a small group who tries your idea out. Then there is a big chasm, like almost like a drop down from the mountains. Before you have to cross the chasm before you can go and get to the early majority market. And then when that continues, the internet era is now in this phase where it is just crossing the chasm and riding up. Whereas things like the chemical industrial revolution are well past, now they're in the laggard late majority area. Now, typically inside, before it entered, the big struggle as an entrepreneur is to go with the early adopters and try and get into the main market. There are these people at the bottom I've shown in green. Angel investors are the ones who participate in the among early adopters. Private equity firms are the ones who, if they see you going some traction, they come and help you cross the chasm. Once you enter the mainstream market, you can go public. And when you come to the decline phase of your industry, you can do mergers and acquisitions, etc., etc. Okay. This book describes, by Jeffrey Moore, describes each of these stages, and it's very important that you guys study that. The important thing in this new battle for entrepreneurship is that, and this is get your economic professors to talk you a little bit more about this, what used to be called economies of scale, which was at work in the industrial era, today is network effects. And you can see this already in many type of internet startups where there are direct and indirect network effects. Okay, and typically it is like things, if you are kind of get a food delivery service, for example. Okay, the more customers you have, the more other customers will come to you, and then suppliers will come to you, and that will attract more customers and so on and so forth. Study this a little bit more. Today my talk is very brief, but you can ask me questions later. This venturescanners.com is a good place where you can go from time to time and see. For example, they map the entire ecosystem, like in fintech, for example, on a worldwide basis, focused in America, but it applies to India as well. So the various types of entrepreneurship activity which are going around in fintech, you can see at the time, lending companies, personal finance companies, payment companies, equity finance, remittance companies, retail investment, financial security, business tools, crowdfunding, etc., etc. So I've given a brief screenshots of what you can see for fintech, for the health technology, and for the emerging area of law technology. It's very important. Go have a look at that. It will give you many ideas on what are the things which are possible. Today, just watch out for one thing. There are multiple breakthroughs in the area called artificial intelligence being proposed and being bragged about. Word-to-vec algo is one which claims a lot of breakthroughs. But just remember, if you were to simplify what all they do, they look at huge data sets, like, for example, Wikipedia, okay, and then detect patterns there, and from there, you can apply that pattern to smaller things like your own business. And for example, in this area, they had, for example, the famous breakthrough that they trumpeted and discussed with others was you could use words almost like you do mathematics, arithmetic. King minus man plus woman, you get queen, and that's done by analysis of the vectors as I've shown here. But also in the same thing, if you do doctor minus man plus woman, you get nurse. You don't get lady doctor, because the vast database in Wikipedia and on the internet, the pattern is doctor without man plus woman. It's normally nurse. So you must figure out that you have to be very careful when you use some of these breakthrough, so-called breakthrough ideas like word-to-vec. What matters more in a startup? Is it money or is it your knowledge? I overwhelmingly say that not the money which matters whether you succeed or not, but in case, for example, before you leave VJTI, guys, experiment at least on 2 programming methodologies. Okay, one is Python and the other is programming language called R. You have to be pretty adept at both of these, and just make sure that you do, because it's fun to do. And also, somebody pointed out that I spent 4 hours to 5 hours a day coding. That is true. I work largely on Python and R, because all the current excitement is in this area. And that's why in this balance, it's much more important you know that than you have money in your pocket. Okay, other useful links to armor yourself. If you want to, when we're in college, if you want to play around and hone your skills, go to this website called Kaggle. Kaggle has a large number of data sets. Which, if you're in the information technology and particularly deep learning area, you need data sets very badly. It's very difficult to get. But Kaggle has been kind enough to make sure that you have lots of free data sets available. And they also have contests. You can join those contests and sharpen your brain before you graduate. There's a website called Medium, which I love. I go to it and spend at least half an hour to 45 minutes every day. They give you lots and lots of examples and ideas on things, and particularly on analytical stuff. And the third place is Business Standard. I myself write a column for that once a month. Earlier it used to be once in 2 weeks, but now the stress is too much, so I'm doing it, reduced it to once a month. So if you put Business Standard and Ajit Balakrishnan, you'll see all the stuff that I've written there. If you're an entrepreneur, I want you guys to understand that an entrepreneur's goal is not just to make money. Most people mistake the goal of entrepreneurship is to just make personal money. It can't be. For example, an entrepreneur I've always admired is this man called Verghese Kurian. He's the guy who founded Amul, father of the White Revolution. And he's the man sitting there in Gujarat, made sure that hundreds and thousands, if not millions of farmers could make a livelihood, because he took the milk from them and helped them figure out that you can convert that to cheese and other butter and market it on a national basis called Amul. He's a person, he didn't become a wealthy man, but he made lots of other people well-to-do. Narayana Murthy, of course, in Infosys, he's created, apart from being a billionaire personally, he did another kind of thing, created a lot of jobs in the outsourcing area. Mr. Sridharan, who's another person I admire a lot, is called Metro Man. He's a man who single-handedly created, all the metro systems in India, Delhi, Bombay, West Coast Railway, etc., etc. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, of course, is a person who, as you know, is also a billionaire, but he's entrepreneur on the Bombay Stock Exchange. And this young man, of course, as you know, is the CEO of Google. So I think what matters is the whole mix of people make up to be entrepreneurs. It's not people who pursue personal money. These are also entrepreneurs of ideas. They go and implement ideas that they have, which are fantastic and benefit lots of people. Some suggested reading. The platform revolution will help you understand how network markets work differently from the earlier industrial market. Deep learning, in lay terms, often called artificial intelligence, something critically that you must know when you're in college. This book, Safe Bateman, combines both good concepts as well as practical coding examples. About innovation, there's a recent book called Alexander Lazaro's Out Innovate, which gives you very many interesting ideas on innovation and all the paths it can take. And the fourth book is a shameless promotion of my own book, Wave Rider. It discounts early days of the internet in India. Okay, any questions, guys? Hello?
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful lecture. I am sure that I'm speaking on behalf of the entire audience watching us right now, that you have positively revealed groundbreaking thoughts and promising ideas while instilling a new perspective in our lives. We'll now begin with the Q&A session to answer a few of our audience questions.
Okay.
Here's the first question. What are your opinions about the modern day internet services that are hidden behind a paywall? And what strategies do you believe can help companies in creating attractive subscription plans while profiting from them by some margin?
Okay, the paywall and subscription business are basically at the moment driven by essentially online media companies. They are the ones who do it the most. That's an interesting background to that. I think the background is that when the internet burst on the scene in 95, 96, 97, I'm still not quite sure why, but most of the business models revolved around advertising, or attracting advertising. So I think it worked for a while. Right from 95 to about 2000, 2005 maybe. But after that, we found that advertising is completely result oriented. It is based on pay-per-click and paper form fill. And as a matter of fact, of late, just 2-3 weeks ago, there was an auto company which came, said, I'm willing to give you 1 crore advertising budget per month. But what you should do is people should fill in a form and come and ask for a test drive. And not only that, they must actually come to our dealer showrooms and actually do a test drive. And if they do a test drive, we'll pay you guys 1,000 rupees first test drive. So I think what is happening is that switch towards performance-based advertising is taking some of the early media companies, the New York Times and others, into a subscription model. I think it's hard to tell whether the future is going to be subscription or it is apps which will be able to pay. They don't call it subscription, but cost per download and things of the kind. But I think there's a current battle going on between advertising as a revenue and subscription as a revenue. Of course, if you're an e-commerce company, you don't want either. They want, they will have customers and suppliers, and they're the mediators in between. So we'll see. It's a little early to say what will ultimately dominate. Okay.
Well, that was an interesting take on paywalls. Now, here's the next question. As an individual, you have witnessed the entrepreneurial movement during both the late 20th century as well as the early 21st century. Now, what do you see as the key differences between these two eras in the fields of business and marketing?
I think, one of the things is, I think there was a lot more idealism at play in the early entrepreneurship before the internet. Okay, I think I gave you 2-3 examples of Mr. Korean, etc., etc. You can have entrepreneurs of idea. Okay, but okay, let me correct myself. Even in the internet era, there have been true entrepreneurs who's not tried to become unicorns and things of that kind. Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web, was a research scientist, and he created the basic idea which all of us profit from. But he himself did not seek to make big money out of that. Okay, Tim Berners-Lee, that is one. The other is the person who I think the person who, there are a number of such players in the internet, the early internet. But today, the media, for I think better to do, I suspect, always trumpet unicorns. Who is getting to be a $1 billion company very fast. I would urge you to not go too far into the personal making of money. I can tell you that in this country, if you want to live extremely well, you don't need much more than about 5 or 10 crores, less than $1.5 million, and they can live very well in any part of India. So you don't need to make $1 billion to be a successful guy. So be a little careful. I think you get the mix. The early entrepreneurs in the internet era were more driven by idealism and getting the outcome for the web. The web was seen as a way for all of us to bring knowledge available to everyone in the world. It's become too much of a money-making business. What to do? That happens from time to time. Yeah. So don't worry. You pursue your own idealistic versions and make sure that you make enough money on it. Not to have difficult times when you're in the 60s and 70s, but not much more than that. Okay?
Wow, that was great insight. Moving on to the third question. How strong do you believe is the bond between innovation and entrepreneurship? Can they go hand in hand in order to survive today's tough corporate competition?
in my humble opinion, the true entrepreneurs are the ones who innovate. There are others who pass as entrepreneurs by buying from somebody and selling to somebody else. I use the word traders in a very pejorative sense. I'm not fond of people who just buy from something and sell to somebody else and call it trading. Many venture capitalists, for example, venture capitalists and private equity guys are traders. They look at a young man, fool him, and giving them a 40%, 50% stake, and then they look around to see who can they sell it to and pressurize them to sell it. I think that the true innovators are the ones like the creator of the World Wide Web, the creator of the Wikipedia. They have done a signal service. Many people ask me why we pursue my biggest revenue source, readit.com, is running an enterprise email system for companies. People like ICICI, Pru, and HDFC, etc., etc. We run the enterprise email for those guys. Why is it important? Because direct competition is Google and Microsoft. And when I say that, most venture capitalists run away. They say, Ajit sir, how can you compete against Google and Microsoft? I told him, look, it's great. It feels like Shivaji protecting the rest of India from the Mughals. That's what it is. So we are pursuing that vigorously because in India, many of our critical services need an India-based enterprise email system, okay, which contains not just email, but it also contains file sharing and all kinds of complex things. India needs one because I think, as will become apparent in another 2 or 3 or 5 years, technology can be misused by some other countries to conquer us. It's happened to us India before. So I'm battling against all odds to make sure that India has a share of that thinking. Okay, and even today, whenever the defense forces face serious digital threats, they call us and come and they say, Ajit ji, what shall we do? What do you think this is going on? So I'm more than happy to help them for free. We do that almost every 10 days. Somebody flies down in a plane from Delhi to ask us, Ajit ji, what do we do? But I think it's as a citizen of India, I'm very happy to do that. All right.
That is well said. Let's head to our next question now. Rediff was launched when the internet was a fresh idea for Indians. Only 18,000 users engaged initially, but today the portal boasts of millions of users. What was the tactic behind boosting the reach of your company to new users?
I think it has varied from time to time. I think we have essentially had, I must tell you the things which we failed at doing. I think roughly 4 years before Facebook was born, we had an exact equivalent in India. Exact equivalent. Didn't take off. But one thing you must see that in India, the proportion of users who are early adopters are still very, very small. Okay, that's one could write a PhD thesis on it. It is much easier to do a startup, for example, in the United States, and that we're sitting in California, because to get that early users, okay, there is this chart that I showed you in there. To get that early adopters is very, very tough in India. The number of early adopters is very small. What is the reason? I think part of it is the economic travails that we face as a country. So I think what you have to do is, I wish, earlier today morning from 3 o'clock to 7, I was sitting and trying to make notes to see what are the policy ideas that we can have to increase the number of early adopters. We don't want these fake VCs to come from America and China and invest in Indian companies. That is okay, but that's a waste of time and money if you think of it as a nationalist. The early adopters group is the one which we just don't have enough of them, because either they don't have the financial wherewithal or the education, or if they do, they fall in love with America and things of that kind. Anything from the West we love. So, but we have to figure some solutions out. I don't know all answers, but I'm spending a lot of time thinking through what to do to increase the early adopter group. And that is very important for entrepreneurs to succeed. Having a very large early adopter group. Okay.
I'm sure that this information would prove to be quite helpful for our viewers. We have an interesting question popping up next, which is, if you could get a chance to restart your career all over again, what things would you do differently?
I don't know. People ask me the question and ask a codicil. Would you have loved to restart Rediff.com in America? I don't know. Much as I like the United States and my wife and I go and spend holidays there. No, I think with this breakthrough technology needs some solutions in India, because we are after all Indians and we need to make sure the benefit of technology comes to the common person, not just rich people or etc. So I wouldn't redo my life by saying I will emigrate to America and restart Rediff.com. I will not do that. What could I do wrong? I have a long list of mistakes I've made in my life, but that requires separate presentation. And I won't do it today. Yeah. Okay.
A wonderful answer yet once again, sir. Here's the next question. Are there any entrepreneurial hacks that you have developed to help you stay focused and productive every day? If so, what are they?
Habits. Okay. One is, I don't know, it might be controversial, but I get up early, typically around 4:35, and spend every morning at least 1 hour reading material. It happens on, roughly my reading is around technology, programming languages, sociology, history. Keep reading, guys. It's very, very important. I think if I can stop my screen sharing, will I get, I'm just stopping sharing, but that doesn't mean I'll be going. Yeah, you can see it, right here. You can see my house. You can see the books behind me. You can see, right? In this apartment in Bombay, I have 3,000 books, which I keep reading and rereading, and I keep reading 7 books in a week. So that's one thing which is worth thinking of. Yeah. And the second thing is, I think experiment. Don't spend too much time socializing. I think that's a waste of time, and some of it you must do. Of course, my wife and others have complained, saying all the time you're buried your head in books or reading or in front of your computer doing coding. But what to do? You have to have complete passion and things of that kind. Yeah. But I think you have to devote yourself to work, and that is, and work is fun. Yeah? Work is fun. So if you don't think work is fun, then you cannot spend too much time as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That was a marvelous answer. We now advance to the last question of this session. What is the one popular entrepreneurial advice that you disagree with?
Yeah, the one thing which I detest, but I have not yet done enough work to express my detestment, is something called there's a belief that, shareholder value maximization is the goal of life. And this is normally produced by the Wall Street type. Now, many of the Wall Street guys, including the heads of Goldman Sachs and other friends, are friends of mine. So I don't want to insult them in any way. But they all preach this shareholder value maximization. I say the goal of every enterprise is to maximize the value of its shareholders. That is complete crap, believe me. I think shareholders are one of the many different constituencies that a business enterprise has. There are customers, there are suppliers, there are employees, etc. I think this is worshipping shareholders and maximizing their wealth is complete bullshit. You can quote me on that. Mr. Balakrishnan says it, quote unquote, it's complete bullshit. Yeah.
Definitely an amazing answer to end our discussion on a high note. Thank you so much, sir. We are honored by your presence today. It was indeed an impactful session, and we are glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, kiddos. Bye-bye. Yeah,
also, thank you to our wonderful audience for tuning in. We hope that you all enjoyed the session. I am Vedant Dasgupta, signing off. And until next time, this is Technovanza VJTI.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
So we would also like to introduce our faculty who's here. So we have Mr. Rohan Daruwala, who's the Dean of Academics. And we have Mr. Dhiren Patel, who's our Director. So Sir,
Guys,
do you have any questions for Mr. Balakrishnan?
Oh, yeah, good to see you and good to have a wonderful session, Dr. Ajit. And I'm sure that the students at their early, stepping in the life would definitely, take this advice and take their, things forward. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for cherishing VJTI platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, guys. I sign off, guys.
Yeah.